You can tell a lot about a person by their shoes, where they're going, and where they've been. We all own a pair of shoes. Your shoes have walked hundreds of miles on your feet, and they've had to experience everything you've gone through. They were there when you took your first step, and they were there when you were running to the park for the very first time, and they were even there when you stomped away from your parents fuming after your most recent argument. Your shoes were there on your first date, and they were there on your last heartbreak. Do you know in the Holocaust Museum there is a room full of shoes? There is a reason this room leaves so many in tears. On the wall it says, "We are the shoes. We are the last witnesses. We are shoes from grandchildren and grandfathers, from Prague, Paris, and Amsterdam. And because we are only made of fabric and leather, and not of blood and flesh, each one of us avoided the hellfire." There are hundreds and thousands of pairs of shoes in these rooms. And everyone owns a pair of shoes. But shoes aren't just shoes. They belonged to somebody. Someone who had a name, someone who had a family and friends. They belonged to someone who had a face and a story. These aren't just shoes. They're a face and a story behind the face. Now, imagine what it would mean if your shoes were in that pile. And nowadays, it seems like we as teenagers look at a pair of shoes and all we see is the brand logo and the intricate decorations. And when we look at a face, all we see is hair, 2 eyes, a nose, and a set of lips. We look at the exterior and immediately start to judge. But there's a story behind every face and a journey behind every set of shoes. There's a reason they are the way they are. That person isn't just like that because they want to be. Something in the past has shaped them to be that way. And everything they've been through has shaped the emotions they feel, the decisions they make, and who they are. And we've seemed to have forgotten that. Society as a whole has seemed to have forgotten the concept of empathy. Empathy is the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and be able to understand how they feel and how things affect them. Empathy directly means in feeling with one another. And you may say that we haven't forgotten what empathy is. But let's think about it. You know how there are times where you're in the car with your mom and you're 15 minutes late for a doctor's appointment, and how you got caught at a red light and you're waiting and your patience is wearing thin, and finally the light turns green and the car in front of you doesn't move. Honk, honk. Hurry up, slowpoke, your mom yells. And you wonder why they haven't hit the pedal so you can get to where you're going. Funny, isn't it? The car. Because as you lay on your horn, you neglect to remember that they are a person too. A face, a story. As you wonder why they haven't moved already or why they're such an idiot, you don't really stop and take the time to put ourselves in their shoes. Because I'll tell you why they haven't moved in the 0.2 seconds that the light has been green. Maybe they just got the phone call that their mother passed away. Or earlier that day, their younger brother was diagnosed with cancer. Or they just had to put down their family job. How is it that we live in a society where we've forgotten that the person in the car in front of us is a person, not an obstacle? Another time that society lacks empathy is when we see this sign. And it totally perplexes me that the people would turn their heads the other way. And why? Because the times that we've actually tried to help, we've watched them get into fancier cars than ours and drive away. Ouch. We were just lied to. But if our best friend lied to us, we'd give them a second chance, wouldn't we? So why can't we give them Did you know 1 in 6 Americans face hunger every year? 1 in 6. And this is where we're going to start using that lens of empathy. Think about if you lined up your 6 closest friends. Now think about your best friend. Every night when they go home, they don't have a warm, home-cooked meal on the table waiting for them like you do. And they barely know where their next meal is coming from. And maybe it's not your best friend, but it is someone's best friend. And so one person deceived us one time, and so we just get the right to assume that every single one of those people are lying to us. You shouldn't judge a book by its cover. That boy you see lost his mom to cancer and now has nowhere to go and has no one. And the wife that's standing there that has that sign lost her job, has 6 kids, lives in a box, is divorced, and gave up all her dignity to go stand there and hold that sign asking for help. What if it were you? Wouldn't you want somebody to help you? Someone out there right now is thinking that exact thing. And you can be their miracle. What would it look like if you stopped and took the time to think about somebody else other than yourself? We have a responsibility to each other. Each of our stories intertwine, and each choice and action you make has effects on everyone around you. So how is it that we have forgotten empathy? And how is it that we've confused empathy with sympathy? Because empathy and sympathy, people, are not the same. Sympathy is, oh, I'm sorry you're hurting. And empathy is, I feel you're hurt. And we are quick to judge nowadays, even if we only see what's on the outside. And not the story behind the face. And the true story of every person is not the story we see, the external story. The true story of each person is the journey of his or her heart. And we must gain understanding before we judge. And if you try to put yourself in another person's shoes, even for a minute, understanding and compassion will come. What would our world look like if we started thinking about others before ourselves? What if we gave the car in front of us a bit of patience because they are really having a bad day? Or what if we gave that one homeless person a granola bar? Think about how that would change their day. Think about how much greater life would look if we started putting the we before the me. What if we started to remember and renew this concept of empathy? Empathy is not sympathy. Empathy is about standing in someone else's shoes, feeling with his or her heart, seeing with his or her eyes. Not only is empathy hard to outsource and automate, but it makes the world a better place. When is it time to make the world a better place? When is it the time to start putting the we before the me? When are you going to choose to make this world a better place? And when are you going to choose to put the we before the me? And the answer is now.